Hello guys, and welcome to this week's ITFC Unrestricted podcast. How are we all doing this week? Hope we've all recovered from Tuesday. Oh, what an absolute nightmare that was. But we'll see if we bounce back in this episode against Lincoln City. So we'll go through that game, as well as all the news in the world of Ipswich Town this week. A little bit of a quieter week this week, which is not too bad. I've had quite a busy week myself and got a bit of a headache this morning when I'm recording this. So I apologise in advance if I'm not quite my usual self. So there'll probably still be the same fumbling over my words and mispronunciations as always. But we'll try our best to be as our normal selves. And we'll see how we got on this week. Hopefully we bounce back. I don't want to talk too much about Tuesday's game. We did that in the mini match pod. So if you want to hear a little bit more about that, don't know why you'd want to, you can always check that out. But let's see what's been going on in the world of Ipswich Town.
News team, assemble!
Right, so we'll talk about a side that can't stop winning, and sadly that's not the men's team, but equally as impressive start to the season, if not, well, certainly much better than our start to the season. That's Ipswich Ladies, who got another thumping win over their opposition. This time 10-0 once again. I think they won 10-0 a couple of weeks back, didn't they? So certainly got a tight defence down there. They progressed to the third round of the FA Cup, third qualifying round that is, sorry. They beat Peterborough North Star, and their logo looks like something from like Red Star Belgrade or something like that, an Eastern European, Champions League side. But yeah, certainly not performing to that level by any stretch of the imagination. And in that third qualifying round that they go through to, they will play Norwich City Ladies on the 1st of November, Sunday the 1st. So that'll be an exciting local derby. And Ipswich Ladies had the absolute beating of Norwich City Ladies last year, so hopefully they can continue that once again. Natasha Thomas got another 4 goals, so she's in red hot form this season, and hopefully they can, we keep saying it every week, hopefully this long successful run keeps rolling on and they can have the promotion that they deserved last season, and hopefully another cup run. That would be nice as well. Into Monday, so we heard that Caden Jackson was out of the Accrington game with illness. I think we all kind of guessed what illness it might have been. And unfortunately, Caden has come back with a positive coronavirus test. I think we're all going to expecting this at one point during the season, but it's come fairly early on. But that's led to the rest of the squad having to get tested. But luckily, or unluckily, as Tuesday's game went, none of them were tested positive. But we wish Caden a swift recovery. Obviously, it's a very difficult time for many people, not just the footballing community, but the whole world. And we don't want to see anyone suffer too long with an illness, whether that is a player, fan, coaching staff, anyone. So best of luck to Caden. Hope he gets well soon. We also saw on Monday that both Thomas Holy and James Wilson made it into the League One Team of the Week. So for their performances against Accrington Stanley, which, to be honest, I thought it was a bit surprising to see both of them get in, really. I don't think we were really that tested. And Thomas Holy in particular didn't have a great game. That poor form I wouldn't say poor form, but his performances have certainly dipped since the start of the season, and certainly since the start of last season. But he got in the Team of the Week once again. Wilson has been getting a lot of praise on social media, and I think it is deserved. I think he's done really well. I know when we did our squad review at the start of the season that James Wilson was a player we didn't really expect to get as many minutes as he got last year. Obviously, we didn't know if we were going to be getting another centre-half in. We didn't know what Toto's future was going to be either. But both James and Toto, Tuesday aside, have started the season really well. And I think Lambert is going to stick with them for the meantime. But it's good to see that we've got these guys bang in form, but we've also got the likes of Luke Wolfenden, Mark McGuinness, and even Luke Chambers could even come back into the fold as a centre-half. So we have got options there, but it's good to see Wilson get some praise. I think he isn't a spectacular footballer in any stretch of the imagination, but as a defender who puts his body on the line and does exactly what you expect a defender to do, I think there's a lot made of centre-halves now expected to be able to ping ranging passes, sort of 40, 50 yards diagonally up the pitch, which we have been blessed with in the past. Adam Webster was able to do that, wasn't he? But, at League One, you don't quite need that level of ability in your game, and I think James Wilson does a good job when called upon. But yeah, good to see them both get rewarded for their performances. That swiftly forgot about on Tuesday night, I'm sure. Like I said, you can hear a little bit more about that. God knows why you'd want to on the mini match pod that we did on Thursday, which also builds up to the Lincoln City game. But yeah, I don't want to talk about that game far too much, but certainly a wake-up call, we'll put it that way, and at least. The rest of the week was really quiet. Wednesday, Thursday, not really a lot happening this week. Obviously, another bit out of Tuesday, and I'd recommend you go and checking out Talking Town's tribute show to Luke Chambers. He made his 344th league appearance, which is crazy in modern times. You don't really see that nowadays, the amount of turnover you see in clubs. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm Luke Chambers' biggest fan. I've been very critical of him in the past, particularly the last 2 seasons. And yes, I don't think, looking back with the benefit of hindsight, that is all his fault, and probably with the benefit of being a little bit older and wiser now. I think as a man and as a human being, he's a very dedicated person, and certainly the club wouldn't really be the same without him, as in terms of a presence at the club and his influence on some of the younger players. His on-field performances, there's been peaks and troughs, hasn't there? Let's be honest. But I think we all should be celebrating a fantastic achievement, which is him sticking with the club and actually being able to make a little bit of his own personal history. I'm sure he is wanting to make his own history and his own legacy at club, and hopefully he can leave us with a promotion when he does end up leaving as a player. But yeah, that's probably the only highlight, and he was probably the best player on the pitch on a Tuesday night in an Ipswich shirt, to say the least. But yeah, if you want to hear a little bit more about that, you know where to go for that. So yeah, as we said, a little bit quiet for the rest of the week. Wednesday and Thursday's always quiet, isn't it? We always make a comment on that. That brings us into Friday. That's press conference day, and we all know that, don't we? So it's Paul Lambert and Luke Chambers. As we just mentioned, he was talking a little bit more about his time at Town there. But in terms of what Lambert was saying, I think, again, it was more backlash from Tuesday night, and that's probably expected, and that's probably why it's been a little bit more quiet. We've had such a good start to the season. This really sort of let the air out of the balloon, really. That sort of flattened us quite a lot, and we've all had sort of worries that last season is going to repeat itself, and I think that's quite frankly justified, the way it has been at Ipswich Town for the last few years, even the last decade, probably even longer than that. Ever since we got back in the Championship, it's been many, many false dawns, and I think we have the right to feel like that because it's something that we're used to, really. But that habit's got to stop sometime, and hopefully the way we've started this season, I think there's a lot of positive signs about how we're playing. Hopefully Tuesday is just a blip, and we're going to find out later in this episode whether it was just a blip or something to be a little bit more worried about when we face with Lincoln. But yeah, Lambert was key to stress that he's not going to make too many changes. Whether that was a little bit of red herring, and we will see a few more changes to the lineup for the game against Lincoln, we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's justified. I think it'd be very harsh for us to drop certain players. I think there's a few players that definitely need maybe a little bit of a rest, and maybe drop into, so they don't get too comfortable. I'd say Thomas Holy has had a very comfortable ride this season, where he has made some mistakes in games which haven't cost us in the long run. But I think Bristol Rovers at home aside, there's been a lot of sloppy play. Both his passing and general handling of the ball, collecting balls, has been a little bit sceptical at times. Toto Enciala is another one, I think, in the same vein as Thomas Holy, where there's been mistakes in his game, but they haven't been punished. So when you're winning games, often those mistakes don't get talked about. Probably quite rightly, because they haven't led to anything. But it's when they do lead to something, like they did on Tuesday night, which is when they become a problem. And if they are present in every game, then it's something that does need addressing. So I would like to see Luke Wolfenden come in. I would like to see David Cornell get a chance. I did think he was going to be the starting goalkeeper this season, especially off the back of his impressive year last year. It may not have ended quite how he wanted to, but he did have a really good year with Northampton. But yeah, we'll have to see how we've lined up against Lincoln. And yeah, we'll move on to that now. So yeah, a little bit shorter news segment. I've got to get the anchor man, Ron Burgundy, sound effect in there. But yeah, a little bit of quieter week, and I think we're going to have that going forward, aren't we? We've got so many games to come up, and if the games don't go quite to plan, I think social media, from the club at least, goes a little bit quiet. But hopefully we've got a chance to redeem ourselves, and we've got a good feeling this weekend. So let's see how he got on against Lincoln City. Final score: Lincoln City 1, Ipswich Town 0. It's not as enjoyable talking about games anymore, to be honest. So we'll go through it. Town make 4 changes to their starting 11 from the Doncaster game. Stephen Ward returns, so that's a bit of a positive, probably the only real positive out the game. He returns from injury for the first time, replacing Miles Kenlock at left back. He's joined by Ollie Hawkins, Jack Lancaster and Teddy Bishop, who come in for Freddie Sears, Alan Judge and Emir Hughes respectively. Thomas Holy and Toto Enciala are given a chance to redeem themselves against tough opposition once again. It's quite a lively start to the game, plenty of tackles and battles early on. The first chance falls to Lincoln as they work the ball well. Anderson plays it into Ioma down the Lincoln right. Jones bursts into the box and slides. He slid in by Ioma. He drives the ball across the face of the goal. George Grant is at the back post, but he fires wide. Andre Dazelle then tries to switch the play on the edge of the Town box. Grant intercepts the ball with his chest, that's barely even left Andre's foot. I think it's only travelled probably less than 5 yards. Manages to bring the ball down and clips his effort towards the goal, but it goes off the edge of the post, so a little bit of a scare there. Town do respond after this though. Dazelle's pass cuts through the Lincoln defence, finds Edwards. He's in a bit of space, managed to work an angle, but his shot is well saved by the keeper, about 25 yards from goal. And it's a really good start. It's quite a good footballing game. Both teams very positive at the start of the game, well up for it, playing positively. You know, I thought we were going to have a good afternoon, but it's typical Ipswich, really. That went wrong very quickly after that. After this, Lincoln had another chance. Anderson holds the ball on the left-hand side of the box. Jones again, once again breaking into the box, receives the ball. He runs towards the byline, manages to get his cross in without it being blocked and before the ball going out of play. Gets to the back post, and I think Chambers is there. He just manoeuvres Grant out under the ball, and his header can't get the header on target or with any conviction really. But that was a really dangerous opportunity. I think that's probably the most dangerous of the game so far. Edwards enters the race for probably one of the worst free kicks of the season. We all thought Freddie Sears was pretty bad, but he's got an attempt for about 30 yards. A good run by Teddy Bishop, managing to pick up a foul in quite a dangerous area, but it's a really powerful daisy cutter from Gwion Edwards. Doesn't even beat the wall, hits the shin pads of all of those in the Lincoln City wall, so really poor effort there. I think Andre Dazelle wanted to go, and I probably wish he had a go, to be honest. But where are we after this? Anderson latches onto a loose ball left side of the box, but he can only fire across the face of Thomas Haley's goal. Really dangerous on the counter, Lincoln looked like, and we'll go on to see how much that played a factor in later on in the game. Proper centre forwards header from Ollie Hawkins there. I thought it was going to be his dream goal. He's at the back post. The corner's quite looping and high at the back post. He rises really well to meet it, heads it right across the goal. It looks like it's going to go in, but I think it was Monsma on the line, heads it clear. Ioma receives a 1-2 with the teammate, plays it forward into Johnson. He produces a really good touch. You can tell his class, being a Championship Academy prospect. Managed to get that extra half a yard, and he's away from Enciala. He's bearing down on goal, but the angle's getting tighter and tighter, and he just fires the ball across the face of the goal once again. It's probably a lick of paint wide of the far post. That's probably the closest either side had come at that point. But yeah, that was kind of it for the first half. And like I said, it was a really good football in half, I thought. Town had a lot of possession, but we didn't really do a lot with it in open play. A lot of our chances were coming from set pieces. Hawkins did really well, I thought. Great hold-up play, doing all he can, but again, he doesn't look like he's got a goal in him, unfortunately. And when others aren't getting close to him or up and around him, that's where we're really going to struggle, I think. Lincoln themselves look a very tidy footballing team. Very dangerous, particularly out wide and down the right. I think Stephen Ward had a little bit of a torrid time in that first half, but he grew into the game as it went on. You know, he's only just come back from injury, experienced player, and I think he learnt from that first half how he had to deal with it a little bit better. But yeah, I think, like we said on Tuesday night, I think we needed to switch to a 4-2-3-1, get someone up behind Ollie Hawkins, give Liam Bridcut a little bit more to do, and yeah, take advantage of all this good possession. We got possession, but it was meaningless possession. We weren't in the right areas. We weren't getting bodies up there to support Hawkins or in any meaningful sort of areas on the pitch. So yeah, it's a bit samey, without as many goals as midweek, but once again a lot of possession but just not doing enough with it. And I think that's been a tale for the last two games, and if you look back at last season, I think you could argue that is exactly the same that happened there. Lots of possession, but what's the point if you're not doing anything with it? I have to say, Lincoln City had a great music selection. I think Graham Mack pointed it out on the commentary as well. A lot of Oasis and Smiths going on, so we'll give them an extra brownie points for that. That won't affect their opposition rating and the player ratings a little bit later on, but yeah, good music selection. They're coming out to bring it on down. I do like that. It's much better than the playlist we've had seemingly since Roy Keane was there. There's not been many changes apart from the Ed Sheeran mega mix, but I'm glad we don't have to suffer that on a Saturday anymore. But yeah, second half, once again, bright start from the hosts. They're really good once again. Grant drifts inside. He finds got a big pocket of space. He drops off a little bit from his wide attacking position, and he finds a little bit of space in the midfield. It's about 30 yards from goal. And this is a shot that's struck well, but well saved by Thomas Holy. Oh, and then Edwards missed an absolute sitter. We get a free kick, and we're quite lucky because we try and take it quick, but the ref says no, take it again. We get the opportunity to take it again. It's a really good ball. I think Lancaster floats it in, and Edwards is there, goal side of his man, but probably about 2 or 3 yards from goal, and he does his best. Whoever you want to say, Ronnie Rosenthal, Chris Uluwumo, whoever you associate with missing sitters, I don't know how he heads it over. All he had to do was basically look at the goal, and it would have been a goal. But that's probably our best chance of the game, really. And really, there wasn't anything else to talk about from a Town perspective going forward after that point. And yeah, the game sort of really, the life of the game was really sort of sucked out of it, really. Once again, as we said in the first half, lots of possession, but just not doing anything with it whatsoever. And then the big moment comes. So I thought Teddy Bishop was fouled in the build-up, so a bit unlucky here, but it's an absolute reckless challenge. I know there's been a little bit of debate. I've seen it back. It's the first time I'm recording on a Sunday morning, which is a rarity. Been able to see the highlights again. It is a Stonewall penalty, but yeah, Johnson, he was dangerous all game, just like his dad. Quick, pacey, always looks a threat. He gets away down the Lincoln left, sort of holds off, putting on the pace, but then once again he stops, waits, and then he puts on the afterburners, gets past Enciala, and yeah, Toto, you could see what was going to happen from a mile off. I knew it, you know it. You could see it. Toto's chasing back, carbon copy almost of Tuesday night, and they go shoulder to shoulder, and Toto leans his shoulder in and ends up on the deck as well and brings Johnson down. Probably didn't need to. Johnson's heading towards the byline. I think there was a player coming over to cover as well. And yeah, I think we all saw it coming. It's a Lincoln City penalty. George Grant expertly finishes. Holy does go the right way, but it's such a good penalty that he was never going to save it, I don't think. Yeah, it's just what a massive capitulation once again. Almost had exactly the same happen with Thomas Holy with his back pass, gets a back pass, but he kind of plants his foot before the ball has even reached him, so that leaves him kind of reaching to kick the ball. Goes straight to James Jones in the midfield. He's able to sort of make an angle, fires the ball towards the goal. It's a really good effort, and somehow Holy managed to get back and sort of stretch and save his feet, but Holy, once again, I don't think he had a great game. Very sloppy at times with balls coming into the box, didn't claim many high balls, and lucky once again. I think we said it last week, he's got more lives than the gaggle of cats, I think, to be honest. I've never known a keeper to get away with so many. I don't think they're baffling mistakes, but you just think, what are you doing at times? They're just general errors in his play, and we've been so lucky at times, not just this season, but last season, that they haven't been punished. And for me, I think I'd like to see David Cornell given at least a couple of game run. You know, we've got Gillingham and Crewe. Yes, probably you'd argue not the greatest challenges for us, but when we're not in the greatest vein of form, I think you've got to try and make changes and bring someone in who's, I think he's performed well. Game on game, obviously didn't start so well against Arsenal, not all his fault. Then the Fulham game, sorry. Then we had the Arsenal game, didn't we? And then against Gillingham in the Cup, okay, didn't have a lot to do, but he was good in the first half and he distributed the ball well. So I would like to see David Cornell come in, but it's a sad fact that and it's really depressing that it was only 1-0, but that penalty really killed the game off. And yeah, we never looked threatening from this point on. And the game was summed up by an absolutely ridiculous challenge from John Noland. Tackles out of pure anger, with no regard for the ball or the player, just absolutely flies in. And a certain red card, big old Melly in shoes. We saw this a lot last season, and quite frankly, that's an absolutely ridiculous challenge from John Noland. And yeah, I for one am glad he's not going to be about for the next couple of weeks, really, because that was just an absolute shambles, to be honest. And then Lambert gets sent off at the final whistle for some animated protest towards the referee. I think he tried to dig him out in the comments as well, but we beat ourselves again. An individual mistake, not being good enough going forward, and it's just all a little bit embarrassing, to be honest. And if you'd have inserted that fixture into last year's run of games, it wouldn't look out of place, sadly. That is exactly what we got, a very last season performance, and individual mistakes once again costing us. It's a sad reality that we've slumped back into, and we really need to see some change. I think it's time to bring in some new faces into the starting 11. Like I said, I think David Cornell deserves his opportunity now. I think Wolfenden, again, deserves to come back in. Toto's made 2 glaring mistakes in 2 games now. And just, I'd like to see Armando Dobra get a bit of an opportunity. He's a lad who's full of confidence, no matter how things are going. And that's what we need, someone who's not afraid to take players on, turn defenders. We just need that at this moment in time. But yeah, it's getting more difficult to talk about games again. And I think we all had that little nagging doubt that this was going to happen. And yeah, a lot of people want to see the back of Lambert because he clearly hasn't learnt his lesson, or we seem to be slumping back into the same mistakes as last season. So we've got an opportunity on Tuesday. We'll just do the player ratings before we talk about Gillingham, but that's going to be a tough game. They're not in the greatest vein of form either, but it's going to be a tough game. So we'll go to the player ratings. So once again, always out of 10. So Thomas Holy, I gave him a 5. Didn't have a great deal to do in the game. Did make some good saves at times, but once again, some general sloppy play cost him. His kicking wasn't the best either. Same old really from him. Luke Chambers, gave him a 6 as well. Once again, he was just had his usual game, to be honest. Toto Ntiala, I think I gave him a 5. Could easily be downgraded to a 4. Reckless challenge in the box. Had an alright game up until that point, but like I said, we all knew that was going to happen when Johnson got goal side. The chances of Toto giving away a penalty were very high. James Wilson gets a 6. Again, fairly solid from him. Nothing spectacular, but it was what you expect from James Wilson. Steve Ward gets a 6. Got up and down quite well, but he did have a lot of work to do down that left-hand side. Lincoln did have a lot of joy in the first half down that flank as well. Andre Dizelle gets a 6. Probably the only one in the midfield who looked like he was trying to create something at times. Teddy Bishop had the old bright moment, but very fleetingly. John Noland, 5. Again, I'd easily downgrade that to a 4. Stupid red card and not really in the game at all. Teddy Bishop gets a 6. Tried as he might, but not a great performance. Jack Lancaster gets a 6. Again, a bit like Teddy Bishop. When he was in the game, he tried to influence it, and I think his set-piece delivery was fairly good, but just didn't get up to support Ollie Hawkins enough. Ollie Hawkins, I gave him a 7, probably the only one of the front three who covered himself in glory, did all he could to try and bring others into the game and influence the game as much as he could, but generally doesn't look like he's got a goal in him, does he? As much as he had that effort cleared off the line in open play, just isn't always in the right areas, and we've seen his efforts from his feet. I think he absolutely cleared that home stand at the behind the Lincoln goal for one of his opportunities as well. Edwards, 6, again, missed a sitter. Not a great performance on the whole, but yeah, just it's really hard to talk about player ratings. And then we just had the one sub, Keenan Bennett, another 6, just tried as he might. I think it's a really difficult game to try and score because we were very disappointing, but in comparison to Tuesday, it wasn't as suicidal in the way we performed. It was just simply not good enough. And as for Lincoln, I gave them a 7 out of 10. Very good football inside. Didn't have to do a lot to beat us, I don't think. I don't think they were on their A game either. A little bit baffled why they didn't have a striker, but Johnson looked very good leading the line for them. Monsma looked very good at the back. In general, they looked very good. I think they quite rightly deserved to be at the top of the table, and I think they deserved to win the game, quite frankly, as well. So, yeah, we move on to Gillingham, and like I said, they're not in the greatest vein of form themselves. I think they've lost the last 2 or 3 games, which is encouraging for us, but I think this has got 0-0 written all over it. Probably got 2 teams that don't look like they're going to score. Gillingham, we know how they're going to play, very robust, up and at 'em style football. They play a 4-3-3 at the minute. They did have Van Dane Oliver in the middle, and I think he was playing really well for them. They kind of had a bit of a Niall Quinn, Kevin Phillips relationship between him and Jordan Graham, who's in a rich vein of form, or at least was until the last couple of weeks. But Johnny Kinday's leading the line the last couple of weeks, and it's not had the same impact as it had done at the start of the season for Gillingham. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough game. We know how Steve Evans' sides like to play. They're going to get up and at them, but be very solid defensively. It's going to be a big physical game, but we have a good record against Steve Evans. We haven't lost. I've jinxed it now, haven't I? But we haven't lost many games against Gillingham or any Steve Evans side in the past few years. But it's a good opportunity for us to bounce back, and I think to bring in some players that are hungry and want to prove themselves, who haven't been involved as yet, likes of Wolfenden, Cornell, Dobra. I'd even give Bennett a start. I think he probably deserves a start. Bring them in for the Gillingham game, and then we go again against Crewe next Saturday, which will be probably not, I wouldn't say a tough test in comparison to the likes of Doncaster or Lincoln, but they play good football inside. I've spoken to the Railway Men podcast as well. They're going to fill us in on Thursday's mini match pod about Crewe and the challenge they're going to offer. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of games, and we really do need to bounce back. But yeah, it doesn't fill us with much excitement, really. It's getting a little bit like last season, isn't it? But I think another key thing that I do want to mention, how much we miss Flynn Downs. A lot of people were writing off how much of an impact he has, but to have someone with a fire and a dogged determination to drag results out and win that midfield battle, we really do miss Flynn Downs in the middle of the park, and I can't wait for him to come back, really. But yeah, it's another defeat we've got to talk about, and yeah, it's getting all a bit samey, isn't it, guys? Right, that'll do us then, guys. Thank you very much for joining us once again. Sorry we've got another defeat to talk about, but I think we've all been waiting for this moment to happen. But hopefully I've provided you with a bit of entertainment along the way. But yeah, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, all that nonsense if you want to. I'm not going to force you. And yeah, we'll be back on Thursday with a mini match pod, so we'll discuss how we got on against Gillingham. Hopefully we have bounced back in that one. And then we've got, like I said, the Railwaymen podcast are going to be joining us for a little bit of a chat about Crewe Alexandra and how they have started the season, and just talking about their squad in general. And yes, hopefully it will be building up to back-to-back wins, but we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be a tough afternoon, or tough evening I should say, on Tuesday night against Gillingham. But until then, enjoy your week, try not to think about Ipswich too much, and we'll see you in a little while. Take care. Thank you for watching or listening to this week's ITFC Unrestricted podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer and TuneIn. If you haven't already, make sure you follow, download or subscribe so you never miss an episode wherever you are listening. A new episode will be live on all platforms at 6 p.m. every Sunday. For more immediate reaction to all the latest town news, give me a follow on Twitter at rskid26. Go on, you know you want to. Until next week, I've been your host, Mark Beck, so take what you need, be on your way, and keep on following town.